Tolu is a 38-year-old rich woman who has been unlucky with love. All her life, it has been one disappointment after another. She has dated both young and very old men. Her last boyfriend was a 90-year-old king of an oil-rich community, who is responsible for her enormous wealth. Tolu is aware of why she has been unlucky with love. She had promised her dying father she would stay away from sex until marriage while he was on his deathbed. Tolu broke this promise when she was 16. Just days after she had graduated from high school. Her father came from a long line of native priests. She originates from a village in Oyo State where the best fruits in the country came from. Her mother was from the Inum community in Anambra. While growing up, she was told that any child in her family, male or female, who had sex outside marriage would live with a curse. This curse would either make them undesirable to people or make them barren. A lot of young people in her family stayed away from sex until they were married, but a few strayed and discovered the curse to be true. No one had succeeded in breaking this curse, but Tolu was determined to be the first. She had searched everywhere for love, but once she was about to get married, the man would wake up on the morning of the wedding and see a monster's face rather than Tolu's. One day, Tolu was watching TV alone and lonely in the evening, when an advertisement for a love game show popped up on the screen. She watched with keen interest how easy it was for the young people to find love. Some succeeded and others didn't. This excited her, and she contacted the show's producers and applied to attend. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city is Emeka, a 28-year-old player whose life has always depended on sugar mummies. He was just released from prison after being arrested by a former lover who felt betrayed when Emeka absconded with her younger daughter a few days to their planned wedding. His ways had made the producers of the show seek him out as one of the eligible men on the show. A few days after her application, Tolu received an invitation from the producers of the show. An excited Tolu went on a shopping spree, buying new clothes for herself and gifts for the love she hopes to find on the show. The day of the show comes, and Tolu arrives at the studio looking glamorous, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. She had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The curse that had plagued her life loomed like a dark cloud, but for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this unconventional method, a game show, could be the key to breaking the cycle of despair. The producers welcomed her warmly, impressed by her grace and poise. They saw in her the perfect candidate to stir up drama and intrigue on the show. A wealthy, mysterious woman with a past that could captivate viewers. Tolu was assigned to a lavish dressing room, where she was prepped and styled for her first appearance. Meanwhile, Emeka was brought in with much less fanfare. He was used to living off the wealth of others, and the game show was just another opportunity for him. He didn't believe in curses or true love. To him, everything was a game. But the producers had briefed him about Tolu, hinting at her wealth and tragic love life, and Emeka saw his next target. The show began, and Tolu was introduced to the audience. The spotlight was on her as she gracefully walked onto the stage, her confidence masking the fear that lurked beneath. Emeka watched from backstage, sizing her up. He was intrigued by the challenge she presented, not just as another rich woman, but as someone with a story deeper than most. As the show progressed, Tolu and Emeka were paired together for one of the games. They were tasked with answering questions about each other's lives, a test of their potential compatibility. Tolu, wary but determined, answered honestly, while Emeka, ever the charmer, played along, weaving a web of half-truths designed to draw her in. Unknown to Tolu, the spirits behind her curse had sensed something in Emeka, an aura, a power that threatened their hold over her. Emeka had unknowingly inherited supernatural abilities from his lineage, powers that could challenge the dark forces binding Tolu. The spirits recognized this threat and resolved to do everything in their power to keep Tolu from breaking free. On the day of their first challenge together, something eerie occurred. As Emeka looked at Tolu, her face began to morph, not into the monster she was accustomed to, but into something far worse. Her features twisted grotesquely, her eyes turning hollow, her skin decaying as if she were a walking corpse. Emeka's confident demeanor faltered, his charming smile replaced by a look of confusion and fear. The audience, who couldn't see what Tolu was turning to, became concerned at Emeka's behavior. The producers, sensing the strange tension, quickly cut to a commercial break. Backstage, Tolu stared into a mirror, horrified by the reflection staring back at her. She couldn't understand what was happening. The curse had always been bad, but this was beyond anything she had experienced. She had no control over it, and she felt utterly helpless. Emeka, meanwhile, was equally disturbed. He had never seen anything like this before, not even in the darkest corners of his life. He had felt something powerful and sinister when he looked into Tolu's eyes, something that seemed to claw at his very soul. Despite his usual nonchalance, Emeka felt a strange pull towards Tolu, as if he were meant to help her, to fight whatever was tormenting her. The next day, the show continued, but the spirits had intensified their efforts. Each time a man on the show looked at Tolu, her appearance would shift into something grotesque, more horrifying than before. Emeka, who was growing increasingly unsettled, began to see flashes of the true Tolu beneath the twisted facade, a woman filled with pain, longing, and a desperate need to be free from her curse. During a private moment in the dressing room, Emeka confronted Tolu. "I don't know what's going on, but something is very wrong here. This isn't just some bad luck, is it?" Tolu, her voice trembling, finally confessed. She told Emeka about the curse, about her father, and about how every man who had tried to love her had been driven away by her monstrous transformations. She looked at him with pleading eyes, hoping for some understanding, some sign that he wouldn't abandon her like the others. Emeka, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, realized that he had a choice to make. The spirits had revealed themselves to him in small, terrifying glimpses, and he knew that whatever was haunting Tolu was real. He also knew that the power within him, the one he had always ignored, might be the key to helping her. The final challenge of the game show arrived, and tension filled the air. The spirits, sensing that Emeka was close to uncovering his true potential, unleashed their full wrath. The studio lights flickered, the air grew cold, and Tolu's transformation became even more grotesque, her face now a nightmarish vision of decay and horror. This time the monster made itself visible to everyone. The audience saw it, the producers saw it, and quickly ended the live streaming to prevent the online audience from seeing what Tolu had turned into. Other contestants recoiled in fear, some even leaving the stage in panic. However, one of the live feeds wasn't turned off, so the program was still being viewed. The live views instantly multiplied. Online viewers were asking if it was a prank, others said it was good acting. A few, though, knew it wasn't. Emeka stood his ground. He closed his eyes, focusing inward, trying to harness whatever power he felt within. As he did, a surge of energy flowed through him, and the spirits responded with fury. The entire studio seemed to tremble as the supernatural forces battled for control. Emeka opened his eyes and saw Tolu as she truly was, a beautiful, tormented soul trapped in a prison of darkness. He reached out to her, and as their hands touched, a blinding light erupted from Emeka, forcing the spirits to retreat. Tolu's body was pulled out and the monstrous spirit changed into the most charming woman Emeka had ever seen. Her beauty brought a calm presence, and the rumbling atmosphere that accompanied the ugly monster earlier calmed. The spirit spoke in a calm voice, urging Emeka to let Tolu come to her. Emeka refused. The spirit, seeing she could no longer have a home inside Tolu, looked into the audience. "Looking for any young girl that has just had sex?" There were so many of them, but they all had various spirits already living in them. Then she saw the young girl holding the mobile phone streaming the show. She was young and had just been introduced to sex by her boyfriend. The young girl saw the spirit coming towards her. She dropped the phone in her hand and tried to run. The spirit followed her into the corridor and delightfully mounted her. Immediately this happened, and Tolu fell to the ground by Emeka's feet. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the curse was breaking. But the spirits were not so easily defeated. There was one more spirit left inside Tolu. With one last desperate act, the spirit unleashed its strongest illusion yet, making Tolu appear so horrifying that even Emeka, despite his power, hesitated. The connection between them wavered, and Tolu screamed back into consciousness in anguish as she felt the darkness closing in once more. The show ended in chaos, the audience in shock, the producers scrambling to make sense of what had happened. Emeka, drained and uncertain, was left with a burning question: had he failed her? He had felt something change, something powerful, but it wasn't enough to break the curse entirely. As Tolu was escorted off the stage, her heart heavy with despair, she looked back at Emeka. There was something in his eyes, a spark, a glimmer of hope that perhaps all was not lost. The spirits had not defeated him completely, and she realized that their connection was more than just chance. There was something between them that neither the curse nor the spirits could fully destroy. Emeka is left alone in the darkened studio, contemplating the battle that had just taken place, unsure of what to do next. Tolu is taken away, her fate still uncertain, but with a newfound belief that maybe, just maybe, she has found the one person who could help her break free. But somewhere in the distance of the dark studio, an ominous whisper echoes through the night, promising that the fight for Tolu's soul has only just begun. Emeka, who had always been in control of his emotions, found himself genuinely drawn to Tolu. This angered the spirit more, but the sadness in Tolu's eyes stirred something in him. A thing he hadn't felt before. Tolu, too, felt a shift. Emeka's charm was undeniable, but beneath it, she sensed a troubled soul, much like her own. Both of them weren't called back to the show, as the producers feared for their lives. But the audience called for the return of the duo, as they wanted an ending. By that time, social media was abuzz with the clips of the spirit begging Emeka. A lot of people still believed it wasn't real, but they wanted a conclusion to that particular episode. The pressure and threat by viewers to boycott the show if Tolu and Emeka weren't brought back made the producers bring them back after a few days. The show continued with the couple, but the horror people longed for had since been conquered. The spirits had given up on Tolu and found refuge in other human bodies. Tolu and Emeka walked off the stage hand in hand, both changed in ways they hadn't expected. Tolu had found the love she had been searching for, and Emeka had discovered that there was more to life than games and deception. Together, they left the studio, ready to face whatever the future held, curse-free and filled with hope. The end. Please like, share and subscribe to help us develop more interesting stories like this.